I am so excited to introduce our guest for today. This workshop is in collaboration with Alice Health Promotion, and we are pleased to have Kelly Gorman leading today's session. Kelly is a health promotion specialist at Alice, where she oversees initiatives related to resilience, nutrition, sleep, and stress management. A lot of her health promotion work is contributing to the individual and systems level well-being initiatives that continue to expand the ways we conceptualize and operationalize health and well-being. Please join me in welcoming Kelly, and with that, I'll turn it over to her. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa. And it is such an honor and pleasure to be here with you all today. I always enjoy getting to be in conversation and community with Columbia students. So with that, I'll do the fun technology thing where I share my screen. All right, awesome. There we go. I think we're up and running. Perfect. So welcome to the session today. Again, my name is Kelly Gorman. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm a health promotion specialist from Alice Health Promotion, which is a unit within Columbia Health. We're a confidential resource. If you don't know us, I invite you to reach out and get to know us a bit more. Today's session is titled Come As You Are, Utilizing Your Assets to Maximize Working from Home. If you have been to any of my sessions in the past, you'll recognize these goals for engagement. We're going to go through different things today. We're going to cover a pretty wide gambit of different things. So as we go through today, I want you to listen for just two things. The first thing is I want you to listen for one thing that you feel curious about. And the second is I want you to listen for one strategy or concept that feels realistic and applicable for you. With that, throughout our session today, there will be moments for participation and engagement. Those will be through a poll everywhere software. And also I have a fun activity using a website called Padlet. Whenever it's relevant, we'll send you the links to use and give you some clear directions so that you're all set to go. But this is going to be a workshop. So we're going to be working together. We're going to be learning from each other. And a part of that process is also going to be doing some reflection. So I invite you to open up a Word document or have a notepad and notebook or whatever you like to take notes in or journal in or write in. I invite you to get that out and get that ready because that's going to be really, really important for the first half of our session together today. And yeah, I'm putting you to work, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be cool. We're going to be in community together while we do it. So to give you a little bit of forecasting, today, my goal is for you to learn about, talk about, and also be able to learn from yourselves and your lived experiences, your values, their expression, and your communities, and your bodies. And all of these things are so related to our abilities to effectively work from home and the assets that we have that we can utilize as we're thinking about maximizing that experience. So as I named that, you're going to want tools to be able to reflect and write. I have your first reflection here. And I'm actually going to put a timer on. I think writing is a lost art, and writing for self-exploration is something that especially as students, I imagine you may not get the opportunity to do as much as you'd like. So I'm going to put about 4 minutes on my cell phone timer. And in those 4 minutes, I want you to challenge yourself to just write for the entire time. You might be like, Kelly, 4 minutes is no time at all. I challenge you to write for the full 4 minutes. It'll feel a bit longer than that. So with that, I want you to consider these three things and write about these three things. Number one is, what have you enjoyed most about your working from home experience? The second thing is, what has felt most difficult about your working from home experience? And the third is, what have you learned about yourself? So with that, I am going to get my handy dandy timer out, and I'm going to put 4 minutes on, and I'll give you a heads up when it's about halfway done, when there's about 2 minutes left. Go for it. So that's been about 2 minutes. You still have 2 minutes left. And again, I want to challenge you to explore your thoughts for the next 2 minutes related to these 3 items. All right, and if you want to wrap up your final thoughts there, that would be great. All right, so I want to try something fun here. I want you to use the raise your hand feature and let me know who here had at least 2 things that they learned about themselves throughout this reflection process. I see Brandon raise their hand. I appreciate that. Let's see, did anyone else? That's okay. All right, perfect. Thanks, Brandon. So we're learning some things about ourselves. That's super important. And what I really want you to take home with this activity is recognizing that you need to honor yourself and you need to honor your lived experience. So no one else at Columbia knows what it is to be a student in your program at this moment in time, given the uncertainty, given policy changes, given so many things that have changed over the past year. And so with that, we can support you in the ways that we can, but no one can compare to that lived experience that you have, that your peers in your programs have, and we cannot overstate the value of what you learn from the ways that you've adapted, the ways that you've coped, and the ways that you are surviving through the experiences that you are, as you have been, as we're all working from home and working remotely. And with this, I think it's really important to think about how can we apply a trauma-informed lens. So typically we'll think about being trauma-informed if you attend another workshop of ours called Friend to Friend, when we talk about helping a friend, right? Typically we'll talk about trauma-informed anytime we're thinking about someone else, but we actually never apply it to ourselves. And that's where I want to challenge you again today. How can we apply a trauma-informed lens to ourselves and our experiences of working from home so far? So recognizing that there's been so much trauma over the past year, we know that there's both individual, collective, and historical trauma. If those are new terms for you, I'll kind of briefly explain them. Individual trauma is something that is traumatic that happens to an individual. So maybe you or someone close to you had an experience with COVID-19. Maybe there was something really traumatic that happened there on an individual level. Another type of trauma that we've seen so much of is collective trauma. And this is when we look at a community of people, when we see widespread trauma. So this is recognizing that particularly communities of color have been disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And there's been collective trauma for folks of certain identities because of those experiences. The third type of trauma is historical trauma. And this is trauma that's actually, it's passed down in your genes. There's an entire field of study called epigenetics, and it's fascinating, but it shows on a biological level the ways that the experiences that your ancestors have had actually influence your biology today, and it influence your lived experience today as well. So that is to say that there's been so much trauma that's happened to everyone. And also there's been trauma that has impacted folks disproportionately as well. And so it's also why it's so important as we're thinking about our assets, as we're thinking about what we bring to the table in being able to effectively work from home, we need to be trauma informed with ourselves. And so typically when we're talking about this with other people, it's really identifying the shift from, what's wrong with you to what happened to you. And right now is a moment in time when we need to apply that to ourselves. So instead of saying, what's wrong with me, thinking about what happened to me? How have I made meaning of it? How have I adapted? How have I been able to move through things? And it's recognizing that if working from home has felt hard, that's because it's objectively been hard. You're not doing anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. Your body and yourself, you've adapted. And what can we learn from that? And how can you learn from other people around you who have also similarly had to adapt in the ways that you have? So much of the activity that we're going to kind of jump into has to do with some sharing of strategies, some sharing of experiences. And a lot of it is rooted in two main frameworks. So the first one, for those of you who are like nerdy like I am, and I'm just like, like looking into all that stuff. The first one is called healing justice. And this is something that's been around for so much of time. And it's something that really has to do with centering healing in justice movements. And it's recognizing that prioritizing and creating validating spaces for healing is actually an act of radical justice in itself. So that's one thing. The second kind of framework that I want to name for you is called community cultural wealth. And this is recognizing that you have assets from just survival. You have assets from every community that you're a part of, different community norms and ways that you interact and learn from people in those communities. Those create shared sets of assets for a community, but also every individual is shaped by assets that they get from the culmination of all the communities that they're a part of. And so one of my hopes is that we can share some of those community and cultural assets that we all have with each other as this Columbia community as well. So with that, thinking about how we can apply trauma-informed lenses to ourselves, not beat ourselves up for things that ways that our bodies and our minds and ourselves have adapted throughout this work from home experience. I want you to take this lens and revisit some of the reflections that we've done, and also kind of look towards what strategies you've been using. So I'm going to give you about 3 minutes for this reflection, and I want you to revisit that question of what have you learned about yourself. Again, I want you to apply that trauma-informed lens, and then I want you to move to what are some of the strategies that have worked for you to maximize your work from home. Again, we're reserving judgment. We're reserving any feelings of guilt, blame, or shame, recognizing that there's been widespread trauma, and nothing you have done has been wrong. It's all been what your body and mind and you as a person has needed to adapt and survive. And it's interesting. And how can we all learn from that? So with that, I will give you 3 more minutes on a timer. And what I'll prep you for and forecast is we're going to move into an activity where I'll ask you to share themes. So themes of what you've enjoyed about work from home, themes of what's been difficult, and then themes of strategies that you've used. But again, I want you to take this trauma-informed lens, apply it to these reflection questions of what have you learned about yourself and what strategies have worked for you to maximize your work from home experience. I'll give you a heads up when there's about 1 minute left on the clock. All right, and you have about 1 minute left on this reflection. All right, and if you want to wrap up, any final thoughts? Give you a minute to do that now. All right, so here's where I want to move into some sharing. What I have up here on the screen right now, it's a tool called Padlet. Now, we're gonna put the link in the chat feature, so you can just click on that link and get to the Padlet page. You can also scan the QR code and participate from a mobile device that might be more difficult to do. So I would recommend, if you can open the link in another browser, do that. And if not, definitely recommend using a mobile device. But what I would like for you to do here is for you to answer some of these questions and share some of your thoughts with other folks. So I'm sharing my screen right now, and if you're taking a look at it, you can add ideas by clicking this pink button in the bottom right corner. If you press add, you can see it adds a box on the screen, and you all have access to view the screen in live time. So whatever changes you make on the screen, you'll be able to see on my screen as they'll be reflected there. And I want you to take a minute, and I want you to add some ideas under each of these columns. So what have you enjoyed the most about your work from home experience? What has felt most difficult about your work from home experience? And what strategies have worked for you to maximize your work from home experience? And to the best of your abilities, if you try to place them in the appropriate columns, that would be great. No worries if not. And I'll give you like 2 minutes to add some thoughts on there. Awesome. I'm really appreciating everything everyone is throwing out there. I hope you can keep doing it, and I'll start reading some out just to throw things out there. This is also a moment if you want to unmute yourself, if you want to chat, I invite you to do so. But kind of going through the first question of what have you enjoyed most about your work from home experience, I'm seeing a lot more time with family. I'm seeing pursuit of meaningful professional endeavors, exploration, and increased depth of understanding of what I do and how I approach it through a lens of structured oversight. I was able to raise a kitten. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Took a kitten home less than a week before lockdown and thought I'd have to give him away because I wasn't home enough to care for him, but work from home made it possible. Oh my gosh, kittens, like let's go. I've enjoyed being able to be at home with my wife, not to be commuting as much. I've been able to gain back time. These are all some really, really important things. Sorry, I'll go to that in a minute. So in terms of the second question of what has felt most difficult about working from home for you, setting boundaries between work, school, and personal life. I see someone else says the most difficult thing is not feeling like work-life balance is being respected and not being able to get away from work since I'm always near my computer. Absolutely, especially the virtual world probably compounded that for you as well. I know it did for me at least. I see someone else says isolation. I feel disconnected from my team and have trouble not placing my bias towards their work effort on them. And then I see someone says boundaries. I rely heavily on spatial and social cues for ending my day and miss them terribly. That's so real. That's so real. All right, now I see fewer strategies. That's okay. Hopefully folks are getting to that column next. Creating designated spaces in my tiny New York City apartment dedicated to work and school versus personal time. That's a fantastic strategy. We'll chat more about that one later on. Scheduling my time so there's not much overlap in work. Talking to coworkers about non-work things often. Yeah, that's really important. In the virtual world, in so many ways, we've lost those informal interactions where you might be like in the hallway or just hanging around your office waiting for a meeting, and you get to have that rich conversation and learn about someone's hobby or passion. Or if you found me around my office this week, you will learn all about the Masters tournament, which is coming up this weekend. It's the biggest golf tournament of the year. I'm so excited. I'm going to be wearing my visor, watching golf starting Thursday through Sunday. That's where you can find me. If you want to chat more about that, though, always happy to do that. All right, let's see. I will let this person type because I was about to start reading their strategy, and I think I would feel a lot of pressure to finish typing if that happened to me. All right, cool. So I'm going to read it now. Working on my most important work when I feel most effective, not necessarily 9 to 5. Yeah, so 9 to 5 is kind of an arbitrary time period. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for saying that, but it's a socially constructed system that our society has created to say like, hey, we need to be productive between these hours. And this is the one way we're going to measure productivity in our lives. And frankly, it's a really arbitrary time frame. Some people are not their most effective during that time frame, and that's okay. And because we don't normalize that enough, there tends to be a lot of guilt, blame, and shame that folks associate with being productive outside of the 9 to 5 workday. So hopefully, if you identify with any part of that, you recognize that there are other people out there who feel the same way and who are working through some similar things as well. To jump back to what you've enjoyed the most about your work from home experience. Actually, I'm guessing this one might be something that made it hard, but isolation and how difficult work from home made it to collaborate with others, especially the young children I was working with. I'm going to move that one over. And if that's an oversight on my end, please call me out. I welcome that. But yeah, isolation has been real and collaboration has been really tough. All right, another one that I am, another one that I'm seeing is, it just moved on me, I'm sorry. This is my confused face. All right, so someone said going outside and moving my body. I just moved that over to the strategies. All right, let's see. All right, awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing these things. I encourage you to continue adding things on these lists. Something that I want to name, some of the things that I'm seeing in terms of things that folks have enjoyed about the experience, it seems like a bit of it relates to your personal values and what's most important to you. For many people, when you get time back in your life because you don't have a commute or because you're surrounded by different people, whether you have that choice or not, it helps you reprioritize what's actually most important to you. And in many ways, it can help you feel connected to certain communities. But something that we're also seeing in things that made it difficult is that there's widespread isolation, right? There's some things that made it really difficult to feel like you're a part of a community, to feel like you have connection to peers and friends and other folks around you. And so looking at some of the strategies, I think it's interesting because a lot of these have to do with performance, right? A lot of these have to do with how can we be optimally effective within these realms. And some of them have to do with taking care of your body, which is fantastic. That's where I'll give more concrete tips for. But something I want to name, and I welcome other kind of analyses that, we're doing some quick content analysis together right now. But in what ways do we see some of the challenges and difficulties not represented or not met in some of the strategies that have been outlined? And how might we come together to think about what are some of those themes that may be relevant? All right, so I'll throw you a more specific question. My next question for you is, I want you to think about what are some of the relevant systems and structures that have influenced everything that you see on the screen here. There may or may not be some systems and structures at play that have created this disconnect between what's most difficult about the work from home experience and our ability to have strategies that actually address them and that are able to maximize that work from home experience. So examples, when I say systems and structures, I'm talking about policies. I'm talking about, maybe community norms, maybe family norms. I'm talking about structural environments. I'm talking about anything that comes to mind within those realms. What are some of the systems that we can see that are influencing those things at play? I see someone says communication systems. Yeah, I think that's super important. I would actually love to hear more about that if you don't mind expanding on that. I also don't want to be mean and put you on the spot. So however you feel called to engage with that would be great.
Yeah, of course. So for me, it's kind of twofold. I struggle with the video communication mechanism because there's a detachment that goes on with those related to just kind of the timing of the sound that goes along with the video component. So there's the social piece of it there. But also just in efficacy in work as well. So the communication systems that we had in the office were very much ones where you could kind of hear what was going on and who was busy over cube walls, so to speak. And the informal structures that we've maintained in our in-person environment don't serve us well in a text-based environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing and expanding on that. We miss a lot of things in the current communication when it tends to be really transactional, right? And it kind of needs to be because of this virtual environment. What are some other systems and structures that folks can think of? So I know there was a pass-fail policy for folks who may have been here last spring that was implemented. For some, this is an example of a system or a structure that may have facilitated something you enjoyed about the work from home experience. And for others, if you're really relying on that one grade in that class to lift your GPA up, that's something that may have actually really hurt and made your work from home experience difficult or added stress to it. Another policy that could fall into either category, depending on your experience of the pandemic, might be thinking about attendance policies. Maybe professors have created policies where you don't necessarily need to be in class in a synchronous way. And so maybe that means that you've taken advantage of that, and you've done things that have benefited you because of that. And maybe that means that you've actually been able to use that as a tool to procrastinate and not actually stay on top of work in the ways that you may have liked. So that's another example of a system or a structure that may have impacted you throughout these processes. All right, anything else before we move on?
Hey, I'll turn my camera on. I feel like it's so weird, but I'm outside. I saw a lot about like boundaries and feeling pressured to work, and I thought the idea about making specific spaces was really good. I myself like made a rule that the only work I'll do after 8:30 p.m. is homework, but it didn't make me feel less guilty.
Yeah.
And I think I'm sorry, I already forgot if this is a CSSW or a university-wide event, but I'm at the School of Social Work. And I think in particular, like knowing that for a lot of my clients, they didn't have any kind of support systems. There was no structures in place to help, for example, like working parents who now they're also expected to be teachers, right? And or, you know, families dependent on schools for like healthcare, shelter, food, internet, like things that they just didn't have at home. And so the fact that like none of these systems were in place to support anyone made me feel like, you know I'm only obligated to do 7 hours of work a day, but like my heart, I feel like such a jerk, like leaving my clients in the lurch. And so, yeah, I mean, I tried really hard to set boundaries. I feel like that was a pretty common challenge for a lot of folks, but even when I did, I would be sitting there trying to like watch TV at 9 p.m. and find myself thinking about like, well, what can I do tomorrow to maximize my time? Because I know that like, you know, these people are having these problems and this family has those problems. And so I think just like, and then also for me, you know, I lost like 7 weeks of work during the pandemic. And so, I mean, I'm literally texting people like, this is the food pantry that I went to today. Like, I now know how to apply for SNAP because I just did it. So let me help you out. Like, so it's kind of the dual pressures of like these systems of like social safety nets are practically non-existent for me as a person. And then also for me as a worker trying to support other people with similar problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah, thank you so much for sharing all of that and naming. There's so much there to deconstruct. It sounds like kind of like for you on that individual level and your lived experience, a lot of it comes down to setting boundaries, and the systems that are influencing that are the systems of, you know, this culture of productivity, this culture of the kind of the glorification of busy. If you were at our last session when we talked about procrastination, we also talked a lot about fear of failure. This is a societally created system that's also heavily influenced by white supremacy and by so many systems that have this narrow definition of what success is, what's worthwhile, things that we should be spending our time on. So it sounds like there's kind of that individual level thing, and then also with your work with folks as a social worker, I'm assuming you said CSSW, is that they're also facing very real and true barriers and issues in their lived experiences, some of which you shared, food pantry and SNAP. And these also relate to these wider systems of oppression, of capitalism, of so much more that's connected in our society. And thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I also want to validate that it makes total sense that it's hard to turn off from that, right? A lot of what you named is also sharing so many bits of trauma that all seem to have happened in one day. And I would imagine that it happened multiple days. And that became the reality for so many people throughout the pandemic, was dealing with what would be a lot of trauma in any other time. What was once a lot of trauma in a certain period of time became a daily occurrence for so many people. And it makes sense that it's hard for our minds to grapple with that. We're not necessarily created to do that. So with that, it sounds like you've created some great strategies and you've tried some things out. And as hard as it is, having compassion and with yourself, and not trying to blame or guilt yourself when you're surviving and you're managing in the ways that you need to. Awesome. So I really appreciate everyone sharing. This website will be live. This Padlet will exist forever. So you can add to it. You can do whatever you want with it. I will say I will not monitor it. So yeah, I'm just going to put that out there. It will not be monitored. But with that, I think that really kind of comes strong to another one of the main points, which is really to honor your values in your community. Recognizing these systems and structures that impact our ability to act on what matters to us, in addition to the strategies that we've learned, the strategies that folks around us have learned, are really what gear us up to recognize all of the assets that we have to maximize our experiences, to maximize our working from home, recognizing that a big part of it needs to be healing, a big part of it needs to be honoring ourselves and our experiences, and then yeah, moving into a place of also taking care of our bodies. So when I say taking care of your body, this is going to be the section where I give you some more information and more strategies. But when I say to take care of your body, what I really mean is three things. So taking care of your mind, fueling your body, and transitioning your body. Now, you all have already named some of the things that we're going to go through, but I want to start by talking about taking care of your mind. So a lot of this has to do with self-care and practicing coping strategies. When we talk about self-care, it's really important to distinguish between soothing and self-care because they impact our recovery differently. When we think about soothing, the intention is to feel better and to change our mood or to change our brain chemistry. The fastest ways to change our mood or our brain chemistry are through food, sex, drugs, compelling entertainment, or exercise. And with that, we don't moderate those activities well naturally, and they tend to be rooted in this fear and this kind of need to feel better right away. And because of that, it also creates a really short impact. So you may feel temporarily better, but it doesn't get at the deeper things that you may want to be coping with or practicing self-care around. This is juxtaposed with self-care, where the intention is to engage in activity that assists in holding difficult emotions while still leading with your values, while still having that connection to what's most important to you. Now, sometimes they may look the same, and the key differentiation between these two things is all about the intentionality with which you approach the activities. So some self-care practices that I'm going to kind of quickly name include the following. So it's really crucial. The first part of what I say here is you want to think about converting emotional energy to verbal expression and social support. Sometimes having conversations with people that you trust and sharing some of the things that are on your mind that are stressful, and finding community in those, that can help us tolerate distress. That can also help us build resilience. We can learn from each other, just like we've done a bit today. That's super, super important. The next self-care strategy is converting emotional energy to physical expression. This may be exercise, this may be yoga, this may be going for a walk, this may be active breathing exercises. Whatever it is, it's recognizing, okay, I'm going to do this physical activity in part to help hold this difficult or painful emotion or energy that I'm experiencing. So it's converting emotional energy to physical expression. Next one is converting emotional energy to creative expression. Maybe you like to do arts and crafts, or you like to paint. Or for some of my friends, they love to test out new makeup routines. Sorry, you probably don't call it a makeup routine, but new makeup things. And they really like that as their form of creative expression. Whether you're skilled at it or not, the act of engaging with something creative to convert some of your emotional energy to can help us tolerate distress, can help us cope and practice self-care. Meditative practices can be really great at helping us recognize the temporary nature of given emotions and experiences and get a perspective of the wider world outside of that. So meditative practices may include prayer, it might include mindfulness, meditation. There's so many different things that you might practice. There's also a list on the Columbia Health website and different tools that you might use to practice meditation that I'd recommend as well. Sometimes taking a temporary break is really important. So it's setting boundaries for yourself, as some of you have already named, and saying like, all right, I think it was what, after 8:30, the only work I'm gonna do is homework. I might totally get that wrong, and I'm sorry, but that's an example of setting a boundary for yourself. So maybe it's between 5 and 8:30, you're not doing any homework, you're not doing any work related to your work, you're eating dinner, you're connecting with friends, you're doing whatever it is you need to do to take care of yourself. And then when that boundary comes, that's when you get back to it. With this, it's really important that temporary break is not your only form of self-care, and it's a good complementary one to others. Asking what else is true. This can be super helpful when we're in our most activated emotional states, when we're trying to work through things that are most hurtful. Asking what else is true can remind us of the broader reality of our world and what else is true. So if I'm really upset because something upsetting happened and I'm starting to draw conclusions about myself and saying like, oh, I'm really disappointed, I didn't do well on this test, I'm the worst person in the world, I just drew a conclusion, which I shouldn't do. I should honor those emotions. But say I'm in a state, I'm getting really conclusive because I'm really activated, asking myself, wait, hold up, Kelly, what else is true? Well, what else is true is, you know what, I did okay in my other test, and I also was writing 3 essays that night. It's like, okay, cool, what else is true? Well, what else is true is I got into Columbia University. I actually personally haven't, so kudos to all of you, but you get to say that. You get to be like, I got into Columbia University. Like, that's huge. The next one is appropriate inappropriateness. So sometimes it's okay to laugh at the absurdity of a situation, and kind of bring humor and be able to see it in a new light. With this, you also want to be careful. You want to not hurt yourself, and you also want to not hurt people around you. But my favorite one early on in the pandemic was this meme, and memes are my favorite way to practice appropriate inappropriateness. So this meme says, I've almost completed my 90-day trial of 2020. How do I cancel? And it's Baby Yoda. And, you know, obviously we all love Baby Yoda. The last form of self-care is dreaming, and you actually can't control this one, but I name it because our brains are amazing, amazing parts of our bodies, and they're always working to help us out. So when we're trying to process difficult emotions during our lives, sometimes some of those emotions will correlate to emotions that we're experiencing in our dreams. And that's because our brain is trying to help us sort through it all. It's trying to help us make meaning of it and cope with it. And with that, if you're having really distressing dreams, it's always a good idea to do some of that social support. So, chat with someone that you trust, and also seeking help with a mental health provider is always a great idea. So altogether, this is a quick list of examples of how you can practice self-care, recognizing it's the intention with it. It's the intention of I'm converting this emotional energy to this. So the next part of taking care of your body is fueling your body. And the third one's transitioning your body. That one's real quick. We'll get to that after that. But fueling your body, there are 2 main things I want to name. The first one is one sentence, and it's all about bodily nourishment. You need to eat food that nourishes your body and gives you energy. That's kind of my only nutrition advice for you. And it's really that you just need to nourish your body. So your body needs food, and whatever makes your body feel good and that can nourish you, that's what you want to go for. The second main part in fueling your body is the importance of sleep. Sleep is probably one of the single most impactful things you can do for your health. And I'm going to invite you to demonstrate your knowledge for me in the quest for quality sleep. It's a quick, it's a quick quiz show almost. You all will compete against each other. The link is going to go in the chat feature right now. I have about 6-7 questions for you all. And we're just going to hit on some important components of sleep. So I invite you to open up a new tab, go to polev.com/AliceHP, and you'll be able to join. If you don't want to participate, that's okay too. You'll learn something from each question, or you'll affirm the knowledge that you already have. And if you have questions about the questions, I'm here to answer them. So something that's tough is that you have a timer for each question. So we'll see who can get it. Let's see, did the link go in the chat feature?
Yeah, Kelly, it's in there.
Awesome, thanks everyone. All right, so here's your first question. You're gonna pick between 2. Which is more important? Ready, set, go. A, getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night, or B, waking up at the same time each day. Well, I'm really impressed 6 people have already responded. Cool, I think there are only 6 of you. So we're gonna move on to the answer. Ooh, okay, that's cool. All right, so 43% of you got the right answer. The right answer is waking up at the same time each day. 57% of you did say getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night. While that is really important, if you have to choose between the two, waking up at the same time each day is actually really important. It's what sets your circadian rhythm. So if you wake up later, you're actually going to fall asleep later at night. Whereas if you wake up at the same time each day, maybe you had to stay up late the night before, maybe you chose to stay up late the night before. If you still wake up at that same wake up time, you can always catch up on your sleep debt through taking naps, and it won't throw you off. So anytime you move or impact your circadian rhythm and your ability to fall asleep, that's actually going to take a lot longer to recover from than if you just got a shorter night's sleep, but you're still waking up at the same time each day. All right, let's see our leaderboard. Oh, sorry, you're all not, most of you are anonymous. Okay. Oh, some of you are. Okay, cool. All right, next question. Which of the following should you not incorporate into a bedtime ritual or routine? This is tricky, right? I'm using that not in the question. So get ready to pick out which one you should not incorporate into your bedtime ritual. The options are light muscle strengthening exercises, a warm shower, listening to music, venting to a friend, or reading. You have 7 seconds left to answer. All right, everyone got it in. Let's see. All right, 57% of you got this one right. So venting to a friend is something that you would actually want to refrain from doing before you go to bed. This is because whatever you're venting about, whatever you're upset about, well, now all those thoughts and feelings are going to be in your head, and you're going to elevate your cortisol levels. You're going to elevate your stress levels because your cortisol is up, and that's going to keep you awake. That's going to make it a lot harder to go to sleep. Light muscle strengthening exercises, those tend to not elevate your heart rate as much. And so they actually just serve to warm your body. And anytime you slightly warm your body before you go to bed, it actually helps you fall asleep. So that's why a warm shower is another great idea. All right. It's a tight leaderboard. Let's go. What is the main cause of inability to sleep? Our options are stress, caffeine, alcohol, roommates, none of the above. Kittens is not an option on there, but maybe I should have put kittens for our kitten raiser. All right. Oh, we have 7 or so. Okay. All right, let's see. All right, most of you got this one right. So stress is actually the main cause of inability to sleep. Also why venting and thinking about what makes you upset right before you go to bed will only keep you awake. All right, Brandon, I see you moving into the #1 spot. All right, next question. Which food or drink might make it more difficult to fall asleep? Your options: citrus fruits, carbonated drinks, heavier rich foods, fattier fried meals, spicy dishes, all of the above. All right, let's see. All right, 57% said all of the above. This is kind of an arbitrary question. The main thing that is behind this question is anything that gives you indigestion or heartburn is going to be something that might make it more difficult to fall asleep. That varies from person to person, so I kind of can't put a blanket statement on that. If you don't get heartburn from carbonated drinks, A, I'm a little bit jealous of you, but B, you put the right answer for you, and I'm going to affirm that. All right, which of the following is not supported by formal guidelines for physical activity as it relates to sleep? I got that not in there again, so pick the one that you should not be doing. Your options: it is okay to do a muscle strengthening workout close to bedtime. It is okay to do a cardio workout close to bedtime. Physical activity should not be too close to bedtime. Everyone should have about 20 to 30 minutes of physical activity per day. 2 seconds. All right, that's a tough one. I could barely read it in time. Let's see. All right, 75% of you got this one. Ooh, yeah, I think you all got it right. All right, I'm messed up here. Anyways, cardio workouts close to bedtime, that's going to give you all these endorphins. That's going to keep you awake. So that's something that you want to avoid. Whereas light muscle strengthening, as long as it's not raising your heart rate too high, it'll heat your body. That's something that will help you fall asleep. I think we got 2 more questions. All right, what are the only activities that should take place on your bed in an ideal world? All right, let's see. Yeah, you all got it right. So sleep and sex are the only activities that should take place on your bed in an ideal world. And this actually relates to some of the strategies that folks have mentioned for working from home, in that the ways that you condition your body are really important. So your body will associate different things with different areas if you let it. And now if you're watching Netflix on your bed, you're now associating wakefulness with your bed. So when you lie down to go to sleep, it's going to be really hard to fall asleep because your body has associated wakefulness with it. The same thing actually happens with productivity. So if you sit at your desk, if you have a desk, then if you're sitting at your desk and you start scrolling social media and you start like procrastinating and doing all these things that are not what you're aiming to do at that space, now you're going to make it more likely that it's going to be okay for you to do that in that space moving forward. So one of the biggest tips there is to think about how can you associate certain behaviors and activities with different spaces in whatever space you have available to you. So if you find yourself really scrolling through social media in a place where you want to be productive for schoolwork, actually just get up and go to a different spot in your room or a different spot in wherever you are, and then scroll social media there. And when you decide you're done with that, go back to the space, and that will help you out. All right. Examples of blue light devices include all of the following except all right. So lamps are not blue light devices. That's great. So blue light devices are going to stimulate things in your eyes and your optical system, and it's going to make it sometimes harder for you to fall asleep. We get blue lights from our cell phones, our tablets, our TVs, our computers, all of these things. Ideally, you want to try to shut them down 45 minutes to an hour before you want to fall asleep. All right. I think this is our last question. How long should a nap be? All right. 43% of you crushed this one. So you want a nap to be 20 minutes or 90 minutes? 20 minutes because after 20 minutes, it will improve some of your performance and your ability to keep your focus and be productive without having the levels of melatonin rise so much in your brain that you wake up groggy. So you can still wake up really alert and ready to go after 20 minutes. And 90 minutes will let you have one full sleep cycle. So recognizing that it takes about 14 minutes for the average person to fall asleep, you might do 90 plus 14 if you're looking to catch up on one full sleep cycle. Having more than one full sleep cycle of a nap may make it harder for you to fall asleep. So if possible, keeping it to that one sleep cycle will help you wake up feeling refreshed and energized and ready to go. All right, so this is going to be our final breakdown. Brandon, congratulations. Anonymous, great second run there. What's the ideal time to take a nap? I'm just going to tell you it's 2 to 3 p.m. And yeah, so that's the important part there. So we talked about fueling your body, and the last part is transitioning your body, and it really has to do with what we talked about before. So physically making sure that you're associating your body with actions that you want in certain spaces. I've worked with students who they only have a bed right now, and they're doing school from their bed, they're eating from their bed, they're working and doing their internship from their bed. And in an ideal world, like that's tough, right? That's not what we want ideally. And at the same time, we can still make it work. So if that's your case, it's thinking about, all right, so the left half of the bed is what I'm going to do my schoolwork on. The right half of my bed is going to be eating an internship. So it's really dividing up your space and trying to make sure that you're conditioning your body to different areas of it. I think someone already mentioned that's what they've done, but I want to affirm that that is how your body works, and that's a great idea. You also want to transition your body mentally and emotionally. So this is taking care of yourself. This is practicing that self-care. And this is building routines so that you can actually fully begin and fully end your days. I'll send out this worksheet or ask my friends in University Life to do so. This is a daily 3-step daily practice that can help you set a real beginning to your day and then engage in some reflection that can help you transition out of your day and transition into the next one. So creating those transitions wherever you can is super, super important. It builds your resilience, it deepens your flourishing. I invite you to do this. Do it for 2 weeks, send me an email, let me know what you learn. I'll be excited to learn from you. But all of this is really about honoring your body. And so today's session has these 3 key takeaways. Number 1 is that you need to honor yourself and your lived experiences. You have so much embodied wisdom just from going through what you have throughout this pandemic and working and being a Columbia student and all that you've done. You got to honor that, take space and really validate what you've learned. You got to honor your values and your community and the communities that you're a part of. And then you also have to honor your body. I want to remind you of some campus resources that are available to you. Links to success and coping with stress tips are both 2 pages on the Columbia Health website. You have my team in Alice Health Promotion. If you want to meet about any of this, happy to do so. You have student advisors, counseling and psychological services, and each other, which is super important. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for joining. My email is up on the screen. If you want to get in touch, please don't hesitate. Thank you again for having me.
Yes, and thank you, Kelly, for this insightful workshop and discussion. I'd also like to thank each and every one of you who attended and participated. You all seemed super engaged in the conversation. I learned a few things today as well. So I'm going to start paying attention to how I'm taking care of my body during this time of working from home. We truly hope that you gained a lot out of today's event. Lastly, you will receive a feedback form in a follow-up email, and we kindly ask you all to fill it out with any feedback you might have, so that we can continue to put on events that fulfill your needs and interests as students. That being said, this is the last and final Graduate Initiative event for the semester, but we encourage you all to check out our events calendar for other upcoming events that the Office of University Life will be hosting these next few weeks and over the summer. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe and best of luck with the rest of the semester. Take care.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.